Hello and welcome to the Klassiki podcast. I'm your host, Sam Goff. Klassiki is your window into the world of Eastern European film. Subscribers gain access to our library of classic and contemporary titles, as well as filmmaker interviews, video introductions, program notes, and more. And you can sign up for a free trial today at klassiki.online. And if you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast app and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. Thank you. This week, Klassiki is launching a new collection of Russian documentaries, exploring life in the country as repressions continue to intensify and the war on Ukraine stretches into its 4th year. From the harsh realities facing activists, to life in exile, and the neglected regions of the Far East where climate change is creating fresh crises. In that vein, this week on the podcast, we wanted to highlight another recent documentary that deserves wider attention. MashaChernaya's The Shards, which won Best Film at the DocLisboa festival in the Portuguese capital last autumn. Shot in a raw DIY style during the first months of the war, the film sees Chernaya and her cohort reflecting on a homeland that has changed beneath their feet. We see glimpses of underground culture from raves to fight clubs, as well as an intimate exposure to personal tragedy as the filmmaker's mother battles against cancer. It's an emotionally charged portrait of a country and a generation in crisis. I spoke with Chernaya about how she went about documenting the world around her and how she balanced the personal and political struggles she encountered on the way. And our new season of Russian documentaries launches on Klassiki this Thursday, the 3rd of April. Find out more by following the link in the show description. Masha Chernaya, thank you for joining us on the Klassiki podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, this is a very striking film, extremely engaging film. I just wanted to start right at the beginning because just the very kind of form of the film raises a number of questions, which I'm sure people would be interested in hearing about. So, did you have a background in filmmaking before you kind of embarked on what became this film, The Shards, or not?
Yeah, I've never studied at any institution, but I was filming since 2017 or 18, I think, and I have something like 10 films already. So it's not my first film, but yeah, I'm a self-taught filmmaker.
And it's a film that we can see the kind of conception of the film unfolding as we watch it. So presumably you didn't start out with a kind of very clear idea in mind. It has this feeling of a document that's being kind of collated in real time. So what was the impetus behind you just picking up your camera and starting to film in this very kind of DIY fashion?
So I was in Georgia at the beginning of 2022 with my camera. I worked there at some Russian and international community, and I was trying to make a film there about this community. And at the beginning of war, I was there, and I started to film what I see. Since that, just because I thought that it's important, and as I know, many filmmakers from Russia were in the same situation, where they started to film everything without having any strong conception. Like, we will film it, and later, like in future, it will be important. Maybe we'll just have to, yeah, it's important to have this archives. So I started to film, and then I had to go to Russia, and I kept filming. Very quickly, it turned into some way to cope with the reality because I was in shock first weeks when I got home. And I realized that camera kind of protects me from the reality. I knew this quality of camera before, but this time it worked perfectly. because it feels a little bit like derealization,
Hmm.
depersonalization, because you have to concentrate on controlling all processes like sound and, I don't know, light, composition. And yeah, it makes you stronger, so you can stand much more with your camera than without it. Yeah, and I started to film even more because I realized that I'm kind of safe with my camera. And maybe in a couple of months, I realized that it could be documentary, not just pieces. But I kept filming the same style. I was filming constantly. It's not just pieces, but I wanted to make it this Shards videos on purpose. Yeah, I think that's it. That it describes somehow how it started from no conception to some conception.
And at what point did you start to sit down then and work with what you'd been filming? Because presumably, if that's how you went about capturing the footage, the process of editing basically would have been very long and difficult to end up with a kind of a compact feature length film.
Yeah, it was a struggle for me actually editing. I like editing, but this particular one was a nightmare because of yeah the spaces which not always connected to each other. I was filming and editing for 2 years. Like I was going back to filming, going back to editing constantly, and I had I don't know 5 or 7 versions of the film, and the first rough cut was 3 hours, more than 3 hours. It was unbearable. Nobody could watch it without being absolutely frustrated. Me also, and yeah, it was the most difficult thing to edit it and to turn it into the film.
I wanted to ask a bit more about this idea of the shard, of the fragmented approach to assembling this material. So this was something that you realized as you were shooting would be part of the kind of the final film, would have this kind of quality of being fragmented, fractured, presented as a series of these shards, as the title put it. I mean, why was that the only way that you could present this material? And what was the intended effect of this shard approach?
I think that this conception showed up in a couple of months since I started to film. And one thing is that shards, pieces, that's what we have now when everything is broken, at least for many, many people in the world. And this is one part of conception. And other part is that I really wanted to capture the spirit of time. I know it sounds, I don't know, too cool, a too big thing to do. But I really believe that it is probably possible only if you like you make very different highlights, very different aspects of
Mm.
life. You show together, like kids playing somewhere for some reason right near the traffic in the center of Moscow, and some ugly military celebrations and some underground whatever rave concert at the abandoned place. If you put it together, it helps you to do not show only black and white,
Hmm.
to do not create any kind of propaganda. So that was my goal.
And was that inspired by anything in particular? I mean, it almost seems like a much bleaker or more difficult version of, say, like a Jonas Mekas film. You know, that this kind of diaristic documentary tradition. Is that something that you were kind of consciously thinking about, or?
I thought about it. but I wasn't sure at my first year of filming that it will be personal film, and then I understood that it's the only way to make it, the only way I could be satisfied with. Yeah, so it turned into some kind of diary, but at the same time, it's not iMovie, selfie documentary, not the classical
No.
genre.
Certainly for kind of a non-Russian, for a curious outsider, the insight that we get in the film into this punky DIY underground kind of scene in Moscow is well, not just in Moscow, but the film is largely in Moscow, as I understand it. It's very compelling, and it raises a lot of questions, I think, certainly for people who have a very kind of cliched understanding of what Russian society is like these days. What was it about that culture, which you're clearly embedded in, that you was important for you to capture? Was there some energy or mood about it that was important for you to capture? And how do you understand? Because this is obviously like a very small, relatively small community within Russian society as a whole, Russian youth society as a whole, Russian youth culture. So what do you understand? How do you understand this culture that you're capturing here in the context of kind of Russia more broadly? And what about it was it that it was important for you to capture? What sort of energy?
It is, of course, about energy for me because when I was involved in underground scene since I was very young, but when I was growing up, I was losing my interest in it. But when I came back to Russia in 2022, I accidentally got into this punky scene, as you said, again, and realized that it, I'm attracted to it in another way, in new way, because it has some rage that I
Right.
have myself. And these people, they just found their way to express it, to express their hidden feelings. And not only rage, I don't know, fear and anger, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so they express it through music, through dancing, through some performances, through even fight clubs. Um, and yeah, I felt connected to it. And at the beginning, when I was invited to Fight Club, I was angry because I thought that it's too much. We already have the situation that full of violence. Everything is full of violence. Why we have to make more violence? But then I saw the Fight Club in real life, and actually I liked it because it seemed very friendly, and it seemed really like a circle of friends that uh, mm, it was sport. They had some referee, some doctor there, some professional sportsmen there, and it was very supportive because circle of friends, and it was nice. Yeah, and this is important, and also it is interesting that, in my opinion, in the beginning of war, this, of course, underground scene existed before. Every country, I think, always has some underground
Sure. Yeah.
circles. Yeah, but it bursted into a lot of people just went there underground because everything is restricted, everything is dangerous, and more people started to visit these concerts, these shows, these abandoned places. It felt like some safe space, very aggressive, but at the same time safe space. So for me it was a part of political processes, also cultural processes, political processes.
It's interesting what you say about it being part of a political process. I mean, obviously, the opportunities for political process or action are very limited. So clearly, these kind of avenues are places that people are drawn to. But presumably, it's still extremely marginal space within Russian culture, Russian society more broadly. So, is there a sense of not futility, but like, is there a sense that this is anger that just has nowhere to go, that would be more productive, if you like?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
So I'm really compelled by the points of the film in which you start to incorporate this home video footage, which I'm guessing is from the 90s. You can tell me uh,
Yes, it's
ex-
90s.
exactly. So
It is 94.
1994. Okay. So another very difficult moment in recent Russian history.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's this through line in the film of your mum's illness with cancer, and we start to get, like I say, this incorporated home video footage from your childhood, which adds a whole another emotional layer. It's very affecting. What was the thinking behind incorporating that home that home video footage, and what was were you attempting to draw some link between the 90s and the present day beyond just the family story? Was there maybe a slightly broader point being made there, linking the 90s to contemporary Russia?
There is no specific link between nowadays Russia and 90s for me, but at the same time, this is our past and it is connected, of course, in some way. My dad had this camera in 90s, really in 1994. It was Chechnya, war time of war in Chechnya.
Mm-hmm.
This is the historical link. But it was important for me to put this archives in the film, yeah, to create some other layer to my personal story, to show my parents and me. And it's interesting that mostly people react to this archives as to some, I don't know, time of brightness of like it was. It creates some contrasts with nowadays because it's childhood and it's so nice, like it's lovely. Yeah, we laugh, we smile there, but it was tough time for my parents, of course. So it's more contradictory than it seems. Um, yeah, I don't create any direct link like 90s and nowadays close. No, but there is a connection, of course, because
Mm.
this is part of history and there was war and now we have another war again.
One thing that struck me was there are these there are these sequences where we see children in the present day, and I was struck by the, like you're saying there, you whenever you see footage of a child and the kind of presumption of innocence or even ignorance that goes along with that, watching footage of you as a child in the mid 90s and then seeing footage from contemporary Moscow of children as well. That was maybe what I had in mind, that there's these kind of echoes, these questions
Mhm.
of innocence, optimism versus the reality of the situation.
Yeah, yeah, you're right in your impressions.
It must have been very difficult, obviously, to work with this, to shoot in the first place, and then to kind of work with this footage of your mother's illness, and then eventually her passing away and her funeral, which we see in detail in the film. Was there a point where you thought I should stop filming this, or was there ever any doubt about how you were going to incorporate what was happening to you, or was it just too important for you to kind of keep shooting? Like you say, it was a kind of protective act when you first took up the camera.
Yeah, it worked. Camera again worked as a shield for me here. And I'm sure that if I wouldn't film the actual funeral, I would, I don't know how I would stand that day. I think I would, I don't know, faint or something. But filming makes you stronger. I actually didn't film the illness. I had some chance to do it. And when I visited mom, she lived not in Moscow. She lived in Tula, which is 200 kilometers from Moscow. And when she said that she feels bad, and I visited her first time, I saw that she lost weight. She feels bad, but at the same time, she didn't feel so strong pain yet. And she even asked me to film her because she said, like, look, I'm beautiful. I lost some weight. You have to film.
Mm.
And I didn't have camera with me. And multiple times I was thinking about that moment that I should film it because it was very touching moment before everything started to go to hell. And she even asked me to film. No doctors, no, I don't know, no medications, no this, no signs of something scary because we didn't have a diagnosis yet. We didn't know that something is really bad going on. But yeah, I didn't make that footage. I didn't have camera, and then when things started to go to hell, I didn't film it. I didn't film in hospital. I didn't film her dying home because of ethical reasons. Like it wasn't something I should film. It's interesting because I had to show the war in the film without having war in front of my camera. And the same with my mom's
Right.
death. I had to show her illness and her death, almost having no footages of it. That's it, I think.
And we also encounter your father. He first appears in this home video footage from the 90s. And then at the end of the film, there's this encounter meeting between the two of you that you film. I think part because of the fragmented shard shard approach to constructing the narrative, if you like, or to putting together these events. The film doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't build to a climax, but then at the end, I think we do get these two climactic moments. And one of them is this encounter, confrontation even with your father, where you basically confront him. You have basically a political argument about the situation in Russia and about the war. What was it like to shoot that? Did he have any objections to you filming him? And why did you feel the need to incorporate that? It's a tense and kind of quite unpleasant, but also strangely touching moment.
Mm-hmm. When I was editing the parts with 90s archives, I suddenly realized that I kind of inherited his stupid filming style because he's moving his camera just like I will move years later. He films himself in the mirror with camera, and I was doing the same in the film. So yeah, we had quite similar filming style. Yeah, and with this talk, with this farewell with father at the end of the film, it was difficult because when you film your personal story, you have to divide yourself into parts. You have to split, which is actually unhealthy in like terms of mental health.
Hmm.
You have you as you, and you have you as director, and you have you as a character of your own movie. And these three parts, they have to coexist. And the part which is the director have to be very cold, looking at character, and you have to scan your life constantly and thinking what is important for the movie. Now I'm crying. Is it important to film it? I don't know. I can burn my apartment. Maybe this will be good for the movie. Like it is crazy. And with my father, it was difficult because one part of me was like, yeah, probably we will not see each other for a long time because I left Russia after that. I went to Georgia, and my father is quite old. So on one hand, I wanted to have nice meeting, to have dinner, and to talk nicely to each other as daughter and father. And one part of me, which is the director, was interested in some conflict, of course. But I didn't want to spoil my relationships with my father just for the movie because I'm not this kind of a person. It's just stupid. It doesn't worth it. So yeah, I was puzzled when I went there to my father with my camera. I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know how to act because that's why I decided to let it be, just act naturally and see what happens. And I was very lucky because, yeah, we really had nice dinner. We really said each other nice things, and it was good farewell. And at the same time, we got this conflict, but I didn't provoke it in any way. It started just naturally when I said that I'm going to leave Russia, at least for some time. Dad just opened up this box of things again. It's not our first talk about these topics, of course, and we yelled at each other multiple times, but we decided before that it's not the reason for not seeing each other and stuff like that. So yeah, everything happened naturally, the best that could happen. And also, I'm not sure if I agree with the idea that there are two main moments in the film, which funeral of Navalny and as you said before, and my talk with my dad. I don't know. I didn't think about these moments as of climatic moments. For me, it's more about mom's funeral and maybe some other moments. But yeah, it's interesting. It could be different for different people.
I guess what I had in mind, where speaking about the Navalny's funeral, which we see at the end of the film, is that the juxtaposition between, it's just the placing the conversation with your father and Navalny's funeral at the end of the film like that. It creates an interesting juxtaposition between this kind of private and public political moments or feelings. I think that's what I had in mind. I mean, I did want to ask about, I mean, obviously it's extremely pointed to incorporate this footage of the kind of the public outpouring of anger and grief at Navalny's funeral. The film, up to that point, there are these kind of moments of discussion of the situation, but it's not a kind of overtly political or kind of polemical film. And it's quite striking that you incorporate this footage of Navalny's funeral at the end. What I did just want to ask, what was the thinking there? What was the intention there?
The one thing is that the sad thing actually is that I can't show the faces of people who are openly against the regime.
Mm-hmm.
And not many foreign viewers understand that. Like, I can show people who express not very obvious political opinions, some contradictory things, but I can't show the person who shows like the protest because it would be dangerous for them.
Sure.
This is one thing. Other thing is that I was struggling with my material because I really didn't want to make a political manifesto. I wanted to make film which is more than that. It's not a journalistic work. I didn't want to push the viewer to the ideas what is good, what is bad. I wanted the viewer to feel smart, like they can make their own conclusions. That's why I didn't push any obvious political opinions in the film. But of course, for me, it was important to show that there is some resistance which is hidden for multiple reasons. And at the funeral of Navalny, it was a moment of this protest, but it was relatively safe to show it because it's just the crowd. You can't distinguish
Right.
in many moments who yells what, and I thought that it's safe, and yeah, it was important for me to show people who are against everything, because I actually, to be honest, I was scared that people in other countries would probably see the film and think that, I don't know, it supports the regime because I don't show.
Or at least it's
mm,
not oppositional, right?
yeah. So it's very tricky. Yeah, and at the Navalny's funeral, for some reason, police gave people this chance to yell everything they wanted to yell. Yes, so it is very important, of course, especially at the end of the movie when you don't quite understand what people think. They say weird things, and then you see, like, yeah, something more obvious.
I'm really glad you raised that point. I think it's a really important one when we're thinking about, the possibilities for filmmaking, independent filmmaking in Russia today. Regardless of one's opinion, there are a lot of things that it is just simply dangerous to incorporate, and that should be understood when we kind of interact with work coming out of Russia today. So I'm really glad that you raised that point. So you said that you didn't want to make a film that was a political manifesto, but do you think that the film is political in a broader sense or in a less kind of pointed sense,
Of
or is that not really your intention?
of course, it is my reflection on historical events in my country and in the world. Of course, it's connected to politics, but it's not only just political thing. It was more personal. It was more about different aspects of life. Like, here is politics, here is just ordinary people's life. That was my intention.
And I guess my last question, and this might not be something that you're able to answer for obvious reasons, but I do want to ask it, is we've talked a little bit about how this film speaks to the kind of possibilities and the restrictions for a kind of independent filmmaking within Russia today. Is there anything you'd like people to know about the situation, or about the types of restrictions or the types of potential that independent filmmakers are working with in Russia now?
The first thing is that many of my colleagues, documentary filmmakers, had to leave country in the first days, weeks, months, or year of war. Also for multiple reasons, because it was dangerous, because they didn't know how to work here, because yeah, you don't understand your future. And now most of them are in Europe or in Georgia or Armenia, and they also don't know much about their future because they're not very wanted and welcomed and any other places. And some people stayed here also for multiple reasons, some of them for personal reasons, some of them ideologically, I guess. And many people work here in Russia in a super partisan way, with like anonymously without their real names. They get some prizes without official acknowledgements, because like nobody knows that it's their work. They got the prize. Like some other person that doesn't exist got this prize, or this bad or good reviews. This is the nowadays reality, and also documentary filmmaking is always connected with many ethical questions. It's really harsh sometimes. Now there are more ethical questions for Russian documentary filmmakers, not only documentary. Which is connected to source of money, ways of filming, showing something or not. There is a risk that if you're trying to make your film about Russia nowadays independently, but you're going to show it somewhere else because you can show it at home, like I can't show it my film here officially, like it doesn't exist here. Yeah, there is this risk that if you want to work abroad as a Russian filmmaker, you will be pushed to work on some other agenda, like you have to make, again, political manifesto, which is expected from you. Yeah, it's not very good for independent authors. What else? I don't know. Many people actually decided to do not work in art anymore because they can't, they don't see why they should keep working. And also there is this conception that Russians have to be quiet to give some space to other voices, especially Ukrainian voices. And the first year of war, I wasn't sure if I will stay in filmmaking for the same reason. I was thinking that nothing is important anymore except like real harsh problems, and I have to be quiet. I have to stop working. But then I changed my mind and I decided that if think I have something to say, I will say.
I think it's important for people to approach this question of Russian culture as it is moving forward with an appreciation of the realities of the situation, and it's something that your film captures both explicitly and implicitly, and it's a really fantastic document. Masha, Chernaya, thanks so much for the film, and thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you again for having me today.